by the Hermitage in Leningrad, people flying the Russian flag and all of that, and people were getting arrested while I was there. Anyway, in both cities, it was so amazing. You've got these huge, big, wide boulevards like you do in every major city. But down the center of every single road was cordoned off with either pylons or even in some cases concrete things for the party members, for the politicians to be able to whip around the city uninterrupted.
Yeah, and whip around the city, by the way, in their Zill limousines, while those that were allowed to buy a car or could afford to buy one drove pieces of crap.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean that to me was the most extreme example that I've ever seen of the so-called egalitarian elites setting up a system to that they don't have to participate in the consequences of their decisions. And Gutfeld's exactly right about this. I mean, these folks on what is that, $16,000 a month income, they're throwing a fit that they got to knock up $250 as their copay.
You're exactly right. And you take that and then take your proper analogy to what you witnessed in Moscow. And we talked about this yesterday, but Heinz Kerry, John Heinz Kerry, who married his money twice, buys a multi-million-dollar yacht, tries to hide it in Connecticut to avoid Massachusetts taxes, gets caught, makes the excuse that, well, we did at the time, we couldn't find a slip large enough, for the yacht, and then brings it back to Massachusetts. You can go down the list. I mean, Harry Reid railing, lying, not just railing, lying about the Koch brothers, completely ignoring the fact that Tom Steyer and other Democrats give far more to the Democrat Party, and I say Democrat versus Democratic on purpose, than conservatives, wealthy billionaire conservatives give to the Republicans. The whole thing down the list, Michael, is hypocrisy.
Yep, exactly. Speaking of wealthy people and them, just speaking of wealthy people, I'm going to totally change subjects here on a totally non-political manner. Did you see that article about the CEO of Continental Resources hand wrote his soon-to-be ex-wife a check for $974,879,317.77?
And she refused it, right?
She refused it. Oh, it just killed me because they're in the middle of this thing going back and forth, and she's suing them, and they're going back and forth and all of this, and so he just said, "Screw it." And right now he's accruing $93,000 a day in interest. So he just wrote her. I mean, it's a regular check, like you've got sitting in your checkbook. Mm-hmm. And he's made sure. I mean, could you ever imagine? He's made sure that she could literally walk into a bank and withdraw cash. Well, maybe not literally cash. Because I doubt there's $1 billion cash.
But to your point, have it show up in her account immediately.
She could have it show up because his account is liquid to the point of $975 million. It's funny. I would just like to know the backstory. They're married for 26 years, and her point is that his fortune is $18 billion. She's only received $20 million so far, and that $1 billion is not fair after 26 years and an $18 billion fortune.
Right. And see, here's my point, and at the risk of of pissing off feminists, P.S. I don't care. I'm just wondering, what impact she had. Two things. What impact or contribution she had to the acquisition of that money by him all those years, and B, had she been on her own, and I would say this regardless of race, but I'm sorry, regardless of of sex, by the way, because the same thing could apply if we had a billionaire, a female. Um,
For Winfrey's soon-to-be ex-husband, if
exactly. What the hell would they have made out of themselves, without the significant other? And to me, I just find that I've always found that astonishing that courts don't recognize that. But again, that's me, an evil conservative.
yeah, well, you know, very good point. I just thought, excuse me, I just thought it was actually kind of funny.
It's hilarious.
Um, Yeah, I don't want that check. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. There's a picture of this guy here, and I can't say he's the best looking guy I've ever seen, but for $1 billion, maybe I'd hook up with him for a while.
Dude, if you're a billionaire to a lot of again, women, and we can say it in reverse. If you're like a billionaire, you can look like a damn gargoyle, and it won't make any difference.
Yeah, exactly.
So listen, I want to talk to you. Speaking of money, okay, I want to talk to you, dude. You have a nice post up today on Town Hall. Michael Haslam, our own Michael Haslam, has a post up on Town Hall, and we're going to again do some nice transition here, but we're talking about money. We were talking about politics. The headline being "Big Money in Politics?" Question mark. So not a big surprise, and so not a big deal, dude. This is a nice article.
Yeah, you know what? It's the first one that I've had up on Town Hall that wasn't just totally smartassy. Um, because there was a friend of mine made a comment. The Political did an ad, or did an article talking about political spending, and that the top 10, and they kind of minced it up that the top 10 donors gave so many millions of dollars, and the top 100 political donors, they gave more money than everybody who gave less than $200, and they're trying to make all these conclusions,
Right.
and the bottom line of it is that big money in politics is bad, that all of this spending is awful, that fewer and fewer people are influencing more and more and more in the electorate. And my
Right.
perspective on it is, um, it's not that big of a deal. In fact, if anything, you could make an argument that there could be more money spent in politics, provided one thing, provided that it's disclosed and it's open and transparent who gave the money.
I completely agree.
I mean, if I want to spend, let's say what Steyer spent 75 million bucks. Let's say I want to fund the Mike Miller for presidency campaign, and I'm fresh off my divorce from Harold Ham, and I cashed the $975 million check. I mean, if I had $1 billion to spend, I could very likely. Maybe not for president, but I bet you that if I spent $1 billion, I could make Mike Miller a legitimate candidate for, governor of Indiana or senator of Indiana or at least mayor of Indianapolis or something, right?
Exactly. I mean, and excuse me, just to kind of digress a second, this is just not at this level. I mean, if you go down uh, to Congress and the folks who having brain failure here, but the what the hell are they called? They go in and they push their causes, and they wind up.
Lobbyists.
Bingo. I don't know what's going on with me other than my headache. But yeah, I mean, you can look top to bottom in politics, and you can look back forever in politics. And it's kind of just the way the game is played. I don't necessarily agree with all of it, but at this level, it's just, I mean, it kind of is what it is. I mean, What do you think? I mean, should laws be changed? I mean,
No, I don't. In
sure.
fact, one of the things that's happened is because of restrictions, these super PACs, in which you can give unlimited money, but the major issue for a super PAC is there can't be coordination between a
Right.
candidate
Yeah,
and the
right.
super
Wink,
PAC.
wink, wink, wink.
Yeah, exactly. And everybody knows that's just a bunch of nonsense. So what's ended up happening, because the political parties themselves and the candidates themselves, they still have significant restrictions. More money is flowing to super PACs. So what I would do if I was running a super PAC for Miller for mayor of Indianapolis, I could not have a Miller for mayor of Indianapolis ad, or I couldn't have Miller on
Right.
there talking
Right.
about
Right.
it. But what I would do is I would do a bunch of ads against your opponent or something like that, right?
Exactly. And that's the way the game is played.
And so I think what's ended up happening is that the laws for the campaigns themselves are forcing the money to the super PACs. I think that unlimited spending by anybody for any reason on any sort of political campaign under any circumstance is totally fine as long as it's disclosed. If it's
See, and
disclosed that I spend $500,000 on the Miller for Mayor campaign, everybody that votes for Miller that understands that Housen spent $500,000 supporting it, Housen's going to expect some sort of quid pro quo, and they're going to understand that a significant part of your mayorship of Indianapolis is going to be kept subject to what I tell you to do because I funded it, and they can make their decisions based upon that.
I gotcha. And setting aside that last part, the quid pro quo things with which I agree, the previous part of your comment was it boils down to free speech. I mean, Congress said as much I'm sorry, Supreme Court said as much last year when it ruled, and I do not have in front of me whatever that max number contribution is, but previous to Supreme Court's ruling last year, that max number was all you could give, period. And SCOTUS ruled that that max number is still in effect, but you could give it to as many candidates as you want. So, again, setting aside quid pro quo, to me, and I think you probably agree, it's pretty much a free speech issue, dude.
Oh, absolutely. And, compare the spending. They figured that last year, of all political spending, including unions and everything else, was about $3.7 billion. And it's just like, oh my God, we spent $3.7 billion on politicians, blah, 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 blah. Well, there was over $2 billion spent last year just on beer advertising alone. Just on
Yeah,
beer.
and what else? I mean, just as you're talking, I'm thinking, we talk about political action committees, but the unions, not viewed as such, but we all know where millions, hundreds of millions of dollars of union money go every election, don't we?
Well, yes, and that's the other point. Politico makes this big deal about these super PACs and these wealthy individuals and on and on and on and on. And there's one sentence that makes an oblique reference to the union involvement. And the reality is that unions are involved in funding more stuff than anybody else, dwarfing Tom Steyer's involvement.
Exactly.
But they don't have a problem with that. And the reality is the overall shot, and we're just about out of time here. The issue isn't how much money is in politics. The issue is how much control politicians have over commerce and business that makes it so attractive for companies and individuals to get involved, because that is where bread is buttered. That's the real problem.
And you're exactly right. And people do, you guys go to town hall. How's them when they get there? Okay. They go to the homepage, townhall.com. How do they find your articles?
Well, you know what? Today it's on the front page. So you go to townhall.com, you just scroll down, and there's my mug.
God, your picture's there too.
My picture is there too. Also, if you hit on any particular writer, like if you're going to go to Tom Sowell or Walt Williams or Kurt Schlichter, then on the right-hand side, there's a little thing that says other columnists, and then you can search by last name, and you pull up Michael Hausum, and it'll list all of my town hall columns there.
Perfect. Hey, listen, mentioning Schlichter and our guest coming up in the second hour, Michael Schaus, both of those dudes named on the list of 50 top conservative columnist in the country, man.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's
We'll
totally
have to,
cool.
we'll have to talk to Schaus about that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Totally.
All right, so listen, we are out of time again in this segment. An hour has flown by. This is The Right Mics with Mike Miller and Michael Hausum. Do not go away. We will be back. Don't go anywhere.